Hi, I'm Mr. Rosengrant, and I have with us today Dr. William Deresiewicz, former Yale professor and author of the book Excellent Sheep, The Miseducation of American Elite and the Way to a Meaningful Life. Dr. Deresiewicz, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
One of my favorite parts about your book, In Excellent Sheep, which is what is an education for? Do we even need to go to college? Why are we going to college? What is the purpose of getting an education? And you also, you mentioned about that, how those elite colleges have kind of strayed in that direction, which makes it harder to kind of focus on what a education is really for. And right now with the economy, and there's also people that just sort of are asking, is it worth it to pay for college? Or, is college just all about what you mentioned in your book is just a return on investment? Is it just about getting trained to do one job? And then is that the whole purpose of a college education? So can you talk to us a little bit about um, what is college for? What is an education for?
Sure. I mean, first of all, let me say that I think it's reasonable and not just with the pandemic. I mean, this has been true for a long time. It's reasonable for students and families to think about how much this is costing me and what am I getting out of it. And I would say that one important guideline for choosing a college should be how much it costs and how much debt you're going to come out with, because I'm not sure it's worth it. It's to load up on debt because it's really going to limit your options in the future. But I'm still a big believer in college. I think it's very hard to get a real education outside of college. There are people who do it, but it's hard. College, if it's done right, and you have professors who are engaged and peers who are engaged, teaches you to think and forces you to think in a way that's almost impossible to find outside of school. So to me, that's the central purpose of college, is to teach you to, I know it's a cliche, teach you to think, but really, it's a real problem now. People just look around us in the culture and society. People are, especially in the internet age when we're in our information silos, learning how to think critically is crucial. Learning how to think about yourself is crucial. That's another thing that college should be for. This kind of informed introspection that college gives you an interval to develop, because that's especially important at the entry to young adulthood, where you can, with the assistance of great books and great professors, learn to think, stop and think about what you really want and what you really believe and what you really care about. Those are the crucial things. Before you go off into the world and the world starts flying at you, get some kind of grip on yourself. And what is it that matters to you? I like to say that the two things that people should think about when they think about their career is not what do I want, or what is this going to get me, but what do I care about and what do I like? What do I like to do? And you need to stop and think about that before you plunge in. The last thing I would say is that doing these things, and again, maybe they sound like great ideas, but can I afford to do this at $40,000 a year or whatever, is that these are actually very practical things. So learning how to think is really important in the job market. I mean, one of the myths is that humanities majors, liberal arts majors, are doomed to poverty. This is simply not true, and study after study after study has shown this. Yes, there's a gap in initial wages compared to technical majors. Engineers make more straight out of college. That gap more or less disappears within 10 years. Because what an engineer learns in college, and this is also a danger of training yourself too narrowly in college. If you study their technical fields, and again, I quote people who say this in the book, people with legitimate authority who really understand this. If you study something too narrowly technical, but have also not learned to think, which means to retrain yourself, to teach yourself as you go forward, you will find that your knowledge is obsolete within 5 or 10 years. And in fact, most people who get engineering and STEM degrees, within a certain number of years, they're no longer in those fields, certainly at the technical level. They may be managers because their knowledge becomes obsolete. In some cases, the whole field becomes obsolete. I wouldn't study petroleum engineering right now, for example. You don't, I mean, it's unlikely that 20 years from now, people are going to want a petroleum engineer. So training yourself for the first job after college is really a recipe for professional stagnation. But if you learn to think the way the liberal arts teaches you, and by, the liberal arts also includes basic science fields as well. Anything where you're really thinking rigorously and not just learning a body of knowledge or skill, what we call soft skills, problem solving, communications, creative skills, these are really valuable in the job market, and they become more and more valuable the farther you go along and you get more and more responsibility. And that's why the wage gap closes. So the same things that are good for you as a human being are actually good for you professionally as well. You don't have to choose between them.